Without any further ado, we would like to give a warm Yellow Jacket welcome to Mr. Bill Rogers.
You did great. Thanks. Okay, he said he was nervous. I thought he did great. How about you guys? So, there you go. All right, I'd like to start by reading you my invitation to speak at this series, okay? So it said, I would like to invite you to come to the Georgia Tech this fall as a speaker for the College of Management Impact Speakers Series. And then it goes on to say, past speakers have included Warren Buffett, Jack Welch, Thomas Friedman, and Al Gore. Okay, so that sets the bar pretty high. So the world's smartest investor, probably the world's best-known CEO, best-selling author, Vice President of the United States, and you get a CEO who's been on the job for 160 days. Okay, so that's what you got. And I work for a bank. I mean, come on. All right, so now I'm very honored to speak with you guys today. I'm very proud of Georgia Tech, our hometown school. SunTrust has had a long association with Georgia Tech, which you should know a little bit about, and how important this university is not only to Atlanta, not only to the region, but to the global economy. So for example, we just recently cut the ribbon on a branch on West Peachtree Street, which we worked very closely with the university, great partnership. We had a branch in a place you wanted to be. So we did a little land swap, and we're able to move our branch a little bit down the block, and you were able to expand the Georgia Tech Conference Center. So a great partnership just from the sort of daily activity. We're in the middle of fulfilling a $200,000 pledge to this college. So we're putting our money where our mouth is in terms of support of you and what you want to accomplish. Now, on a personal note, as you heard from the introduction, I'm a University of North Carolina graduate, and you guys have not been very hospitable to my football or basketball team. So despite that, though, we continue to recruit very actively on this campus for a lot of positions in our company, primarily corporate investment banking positions, but also our enterprise information services. It might surprise you to know that we've hired industrial engineers. Yes, we love engineers, but industrial engineers, computer electrical engineers, in addition to what you consider maybe sort of the more traditional outlets, which you think of the ways to get to a bank. We've attended a lot of career fairs here. We hold information sessions. We've also participated in sort of the accounting and finance career fair, I think, which was held pretty recently. So those are just a couple of examples of the partnerships with Tech, and I think they underscore our mutual commitment to Atlanta and our mutual commitment to make the communities that we live in, to make them a better place to live and a better place to work. Now, we recognize, and as I said before, this is one of the finest institutions in the country, and you're lucky to go to school here, and I hope you realize that. There are thousands of leaders in virtually every discipline that are Georgia Tech graduates, and they represent you across this country. But they also represent a brand, and it's Georgia Tech brand. And that's what I want to talk about, is the same thing with SunTrust. So we understand the responsibility that a brand carries, and I hope you understand that responsibility when you graduate. You have a responsibility to perpetuate your brand. And we feel the same way at SunTrust. And I'm proud that a couple of SunTrust teammates are here with me today. It's that sense of responsibility, the importance of a reputation, the promises behind a brand are what I want to talk about. And I can assure you we understand our role, we understand our responsibility, we take it seriously, and we take our brand promise very seriously. I'm going to also take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about SunTrust. Now, in all fairness, there will be some unabashed propaganda, okay? I make no apology for that. I'm proud of who I work for. I'm proud of the industry that I serve. And so when I'm in that zone of unabashed propaganda, I'm going to tell you I'm there, but you'll probably recognize it on your own anyway. So let's let's take a little step back. Let's talk about a little history because I think it's important for perspective. So think about the last decade. I mean, just to put a couple things in perspective. Let's start with 9/11. The start of the decade. Post 9/11, a new level of patriotism, the nation's recovery, and the economic complete run-up post 9/11. Now, during that time, we've also had a lot of natural disasters, if you can think about that. Frankly, probably too many to cite, but tragic consequences locally, regionally, nationally, globally. Financial meltdown, recession, vilification of an industry, regulatory reform, housing crisis, foreclosures, and something what I'm going to talk about called the new normal, and a return to frugality. People are thinking differently. The emergence and rapidly expanding power of social media on the world stage, national and global political upheaval and change, the Middle East actually transforming before our eyes right now. Think about that, just completely transforming. A polarized political environment that I think supersedes the economic environment. We're posturing on things like the debt ceiling discussion creates uncertainty and creates real consequences, no matter what side of the aisle you stand on. Severe consequences for consumers, for investors, and then frustrations that boil over to protest in the street. Lots of people feeling disenfranchised by the system. Understandable. And when you think about that, that's pretty mind-boggling. I mean, that's a lot of things to sort of put in perspective, and that's in a really short period of time. That amount of change from sort of global perspective, really short period of time. I'm fairly confident there's not a single person here that hasn't been impacted by some of the things that I just mentioned. And some of you are struggling, or your families are struggling, have been impacted again by many of these things. Now, let's start with the economy. So, most of you in this room looking around, you'd only seen up in an economy in your lifetime. You'd really only experienced sort of the good times. Now, there are a few of us that have been around a little bit longer. I'm looking like I'm in the severe minority in this group, but those of us who've seen, some ups and downs in the economy over time, but nothing like right now. Nothing like the current time we're living in, both in a recession and clearly coming out of the recession. Been very, very challenging times for those of us, particularly in the banking industry, but not for really all the reasons that you guys might think. And I want to talk about that. It's our business, and sometimes it sort of feels silly to have to remind people, but it's our business to make loans. It's our business to help people save for retirement. It's our business to help people finance that first college education, to put people in their first home. I mean, it's a noble venture of what we do in the banking business, and a lot of that just gets glossed over. But it's important. It's what we do. And yes, it's also how we make money. And those things can live and work together in the same sentence. But some of those conversations around those aspirations, they haven't gone as well as you might like, right? So sometimes the conversations are a little bit difficult. People are suffering. They are being challenged, and some of those conversations aren't always positive. Now, the price of that criticism, the outcome of those conversations, and the overall economic pressure that we all feel has cost many of us, and particularly our industry, a lot of trust. The trust in our industry is at probably an all-time low, and as I said, we understand that. So take one area. So you guys have heard and read a lot about the mortgage servicing issues across the country, right? Everybody's familiar with these issues, and SunTrust has certainly not been immune. We've had some of the same challenges. Our system was built, the mortgage system was built on basically a stream of issues related to foreclosures, and we have a river of opportunity. So that takes time to absorb and to change. Now, I'll say for us, and I can speak for us, and I think in many cases speak for the rest of the industry, we've been working hard to help clients who've experienced difficulties. When we talk to someone who's had a challenge, 3/4 of the time that ends up with some kind of positive. That's what happens when trust gets eroded. They're afraid to talk to their bank. They're afraid of the outcome. Now, we consider in the case of foreclosure, that's a last resort. That's never the first resort. That is not good for banks. Someone in their home is the best resolution, the best economic solution in addition to the social solution for the bank. But what you ought to know, and I think part of the thing that's, doesn't get a lot of the press, once a foreclosure process starts, the borrower on average has missed 18 consecutive payments on their home. So they've been delinquent for a year and a half before that process starts. So this is not a snap to judgment. This is working closely, but they've really experienced a time and had a major change such that they've been able to unmake a payment for a year and a half. As I said, we take this responsibility to be a financial provider very seriously. We continue to make the investments that we need to make in people. We make the investments in technology. We try to handle each situation with sensitivity, with objectivity, and the appropriate sense of urgency. And do we satisfy everybody? No. But that is the mission. That's what we wake up every day focused on. Now, getting back to a couple of the broader challenges of the economy, we could debate a lot of the what happened. What are the steps that were taken, regulators, politicians, individuals, what's happened in the past. It would be sort of a healthy debate. But that's not what I'm going to focus on. I don't think that's helpful. What I want to focus on is the future. And how do we get out of this? Not trying to find that one single black hat. There's that search for that one individual or that one company or that one politician. Everybody participated. Everybody played their role. And what we have to do, instead of trying to vilify one person or one industry is turn around and try to figure out how do we get out of this mess. Now, looking back and looking ahead, banking will have to play a pivotal role in restoring trust, restoring confidence in the economic strength and the local and the global level. We simply must be part of the solution. We have to be part of the solution. Think about what we do. Think about how involved we are in the community. We have to be part of the growth going forward. Now, what I mean by that, let me give you some of the examples. We've got to build on our historic efforts through community development banking, volunteerism, philanthropy. I gave you some examples as it relates to Georgia Tech specifically. Helping individuals and businesses make good decisions, make good investments, investments in financial education, advice, and in our case, distinguish ourselves through service. We think the best way to build that loyalty and to create that trust is to be the most responsive, best service organization in the financial services business. Now, just to give you a couple of stats here, there are nearly almost 6 million people employed in financial services as of June. Now, those individuals are part of the 50% of us that pay taxes. They support their businesses and their communities. They educate their children where they work and live, and they're part of the vibrancy of that individual community. Now, secondly, okay, now here's where the unabashed propaganda starts. You thought that was bad. Let me sort of get into the really unabashed propaganda. Despite what you've heard, banks are lending money. Now, I'm going to give you some statistics about that. So I heard a little groaning out there. So industry-wide, loan balances increased $64 billion in the second quarter for banks. Now, I'll give you a little data as it relates to SunTrust specifically for the first 9 months. We originated or renewed $60 billion in loans. Renewed or originated $60 billion in loans through the first 9 months of the year. That's up 16% from the first 9 months of 2010. Loan production was the highest in the third quarter it's been in a very long time. Commercial and industrial loans are up about $3.5 billion, about 8% over last year. We all know the economy's not growing at 8%. And consumer loans are up about $3 billion, or about 23% over the last year. We get our role in the recovery. we get that we've got to be part of it. And part of that is lending. And we've been active in that arena. Not the least of which is loans to small businesses. Small businesses will have to be part of the recovery. We originated about $500 million in loans to small business through the SBA. We're part of the administration's small business initiative, Joe Biden's initiative, Small Business Administration. And an interesting note is to think about what small businesses are really worried about, because it's important to understand what they're really worried about. And there are a lot of different surveys, and I'll give you a couple. The overwhelming majority of small business owners, 93%, report that their finance needs are already met and they're not interested in borrowing money. What they're worried about is uncertainty. It's not access to capital, it's uncertainty. And it's uncertainty in the regulatory environment, it's uncertainty from healthcare, it's uncertainty from taxes. They want more certainty before they make decisions. I've been in this business for 30 plus years. I was with a group of small business men and women the other day. They knew more about Greek CDS spreads than some of the people I interact with that are sort of leaders in financial services. So what's going on in the global environment is impacting whether a small business adds another flower truck or not. That's unheard of. That's a new phenomena from my experience in banking. And it just gives you an idea of the crisis in confidence and how it can sway the decisions, not necessarily the access to capital. So U.S. Chamber of Commerce just did a survey, and small business orders, top issue and biggest challenge is not access to capital, as I said, but the economic climate uncertainty. That was 25%. America's growing debt and deficit, 13%, overregulation, 12%, healthcare bill, 13%, loss of revenue, 8%. Access to capital was down in single digits. That's what small business is worried about. That's what we have to try to play a role in ensuring that we're part of that dialogue. So are credit standards a little bit tougher? Yeah, they are. The bar's a little bit higher. That's what you do when you come out of a recession. That's a very natural cycle for banks. But it's not about the supply, it's about the demand. And I think that's an important point. So back to commitment to our community. So I've hit on that topic a couple of different times. I'm going to give you some stats about our company and our teammates. And this is part of what we think is being part of that recovery. We contributed $19 million, both our company and our teammates, to charitable needs in our communities in 2010. And those same teammates contributed 100,000 hours of volunteer time. So as they left their job at SunTrust, they viewed their job was to go out and help the community. They went out with their SunTrust pen. They weren't ashamed to be a banker. And they went out to make a difference and help change things from the ground up. 100,000 hours of volunteer time to almost 5,000 communities. So why do we do that? We give our teammates a day and a half off every month to do volunteer community. We mean, every year to do volunteer time. So in addition to doing it on their own time, we're also encouraging them to do it on the company time. So why do we do it? So it's simple. We live, work, raise our families in the same communities. We want those communities to thrive. A thriving community helps the banking system. Our teammates have the same aspirations that you have or will have. Desire to make a difference, have a rewarding career, financial ability to own a home, save money for your child's education. This may seem far off to many of you, but trust me, it's not as far off as you think. And the dream of a dependable retirement income. We have the same aspirations as the people in our community. So to provide for ourselves, provide for those who need us, and it's not a Gordon Gekko greed kind of thing. Or now who in this room, maybe Gordon Gekko is a bad reference. So do you guys even know who Gordon Gekko is? Okay, look how many few hands come. Okay, go online, go to Netflix, pull it up, and get Wall Street, the original version, and you'll understand the reference. So at the same time, we recognize that we can't market our way out of this. We can't send the CEO, me, to go talk to college campuses and go across the country, and that's going to be the thing that's going to restore trust. That we have a better advertising slogan or a better billboard. That's not what it's all about. The outcome of our actions, the recovery we drive, the homeowners we help, the community investments we make, the level of unemployment we help by helping companies and communities invest, that's how we're committed to helping the recovery and rebuilding. Now, we know that individuals must feel that their interests are considered, their concerns are heard, and their needs are addressed thoughtfully in a responsive manner. That's just sort of the table stakes. And we know we have the responsibility to regain your trust, the confidence it creates, and the reputation that great brands possess. Remember, going back to the concept of great brands. That's what creates great brands. We've worked hard to support our brand over the year, and particularly during this downturn. We want people to see SunTrust as the place that's going to help them. Now, with the launch of Live Solid, Bank Solid campaign, literally at the height of the crisis, I think we set a tone with our clients and with our community that we heard their concerns. Live Solid, Bank Solid resonated. It was about them, it wasn't about us. It wasn't about we're the most solid bank. It was about we can help you live solid. It was about advice. It was about willing to work hard on the solutions. We do a lot of work with leading research companies, Gallup is one, to really understand what client needs are. And it's never been more important because they're changing. The dialogue is changing at an incredible fast pace. One of the insights we gleaned is our clients' view on a word called prosperity. And prosperity is part of our mission, help people and institutions prosper. But the definition of prosperity has changed dramatically. Now, what we found is not very surprising. We went out and polled our clients, so they're feeling less prosperous today. That would be no surprise. And they're feeling less prosperous than when we first started measuring this in 2009. In fact, only a quarter of the people that we surveyed felt like they were more prosperous. But what was interesting is the definition of prosperity has changed dramatically. What they tell us is prosperity is not about money. It's a lot more complex than that. It's a lot different than just being money. People who claim they were more prosperous attribute it to stronger personal relationships, better jobs, a healthier lifestyle, and having enough money to live comfortably. A complete redefinition of what prospered means. And if you think about it, in the way we like to think about it, it's intersection of life and money. It's right where they come together under the word prosper. The Live Solid, Bank Solid campaign that's based on that intersection. It's the newest evolution of our branding. It reinforces the kind of behaviors that our clients now know. These are words you're going to see from us. Now know are an enlightened and more successful approach to living their lives. That they now understand that and they have a bank that works with them. We continue to refine our message, our products, our services, and our approach by regularly talking to clients. Specifically, we talk to 1,000 clients a day through surveys. Now, we do it through a third-party survey. At my own home, I never pick up the phone, and if it said survey on it, I wouldn't answer it. We have 1,000 clients a day who want to engage. They want to talk to us. They want to tell us what they're feeling because they believe we can respond. Critically important. And I'm happy to report that 60% of our clients claim they're extremely satisfied with our efforts. A lot more say they're very satisfied, but 60% say extremely satisfied. So the investments we've made in that Live Solid, Bank Solid commitment, it's just part of a bigger investment in people, their development, technology, and infrastructure. So a lot of you would ask, okay, well, why would you be investing in a downturn? Are you not reading the paper? Are you not aware of what's going on? I mean, we've been in a downturn, and we're investing against that downturn. Well, first of all, we knew it would pass. Second of all, we always take the approach that this is a marathon, not a 100-yard dash. We want to win the marathon. We also wanted to ensure that we were ready to serve our clients and our communities when the economy began to gain traction, and that we had the capability, the people, the technology that they would require. Now, we continue to invest in building out our financial education capabilities. This is an area where I have a lot of personal passion. I think it's an area that we own as an industry, and I want to give you a couple of facts that make me feel that importance. So here are a couple of facts on financial education. So 41% of U.S. adults, more than 92 million people, recently gave themselves a grade, a C, D, or F on their knowledge of personal finance. A third of our population can't calculate a tip. Think about that as a reference point. Many young adults don't feel like they're adequately prepared to make good financial choices when it comes to using debt wisely, saving for their future, and investing their money. 44% of parents admit to needing more guidance on how to best teach their children the skills necessary to become financially responsible and successful adults. Now, this is one of my favorite stats, though, is 50% of teens are unsure how to use a credit card effectively, yet 24% think high school or younger is when they should have one. So if you get the point, I mean, it's our obligation to make sure that financial education is a key component of what we do. The best client consumer for us, the way to have less regulation is to have an educated consumer. And I don't think that's the responsibility of the government. I think that's a responsibility of private industry, and particularly our industry. That's something that we should want, and as I said, I'm particularly passionate about that. So part of our investment is in people, and the development that I mentioned earlier was focused on training. We trained over 1 million hours last year, and what we're working on is building the engagement level of our teammates. We see that a teammate, and I don't use the word employee, by the way. I hope you've noticed that. I use the word teammate when referring to the people that I work with. And I do that in a simple reference. And I get this most poignantly when I talk about it. You'd never let a teammate down. I see two people on the tennis team. You wouldn't let each other down, right? But you might let an employee down. But you would never let a teammate down. So we refer to ourselves as teammates, which is a critical component. And we survey. So just like we listen for clients, we listen for our teammates. And what we do is we ask them a couple of basic needs. And they start in the category of I have the materials and I have the equipment I need to succeed. Remember the old Maslow hierarchy of needs? If you sort of start at that bottom, do I have the materials I need to succeed? Is there someone at work who encourages my development? In the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good work? That's a pretty high standard that you have to answer. In the last 7 days, have I received praise for doing a good job? The mission and purpose of my company makes me feel like my job's important. In the last year, I had an opportunity to work and learn to grow. So our clients are setting a pretty high standard for us, but our teammates are setting an even higher standard. And what we've found out, and it's a pretty simple calculation, teammate engagement, when it's higher, so when people answer those questions on a 4 to 5 scale, when they answer those on a 5, they feel part of the mission of the company. They feel attached. They feel like someone cares about them as a person. They feel like someone's recognized them for what they do at work and has acknowledged it. Their level of engagement's high, and their productivity is somewhere between 20 and 40% higher than those who are disengaged. So it's a great combination of increasing that engagement with our teammates, increasing that engagement in that business with our clients. I'm never more amazed than when I go out in our company. I spend a lot of time on the road. The worst thing I can do is be sitting behind my desk. That's the worst part of my day. The best part of my day is being out. I'll be in Memphis tomorrow with our teammates. We'll have a town hall. We'll talk about what's going on. We'll listen. And hear the kind of things they do. And hear the kind of things that they don't show up in the paper. And I get that. If I could tell you about a teammate in Nashville, when you remember all the floods that went through Nashville, we had someone who walked in the branch, literally didn't have any shoes. Our teammate took off her shoes and handed it to the client and said, "Here, take mine." I can assure you that's not in our training manual. There's no place in there that says take your shoes off when a client comes in barefooted and gives it to them. The list goes on. You guys remember all the storms back in January? We had teammates working around the clock to ensure that clients' checks were posted. So the most simple thing. So when they got up the next day and they needed to pay a bill, that they knew the money would be there. So we had clients who were, teammates who were focused on accomplishing that. We had a teammate in that same situation who drove literally a couple hours to deliver a debit card to a wounded soldier. So the rhetoric is about fees on debit cards. I'm concerned about getting the debit card to the wounded soldier, is making sure that we're accomplishing that. Now, I recognize that many of you probably have not considered banking as a professional career. You may think now, gosh, that might be the worst place to work. Now, this sort of came home to me in sort of the heat of the financial crisis. My youngest son, I've got 4 kids, my youngest son was filling out his common application for college. And he comes downstairs and he said, Dad, what's your occupation? That made me a little worried to start with. So he wasn't applying to Georgia Tech, so maybe that'll make you feel better. He said, what's your occupation? What should I put down? Now, it came clear why he asked me this question. I said, well, put down banking. So he scurries on upstairs and comes back 5 minutes later and says, there isn't a category for banking. What would you like me to put? Thinking, great, no category for banking. How about financial services? So he scurries back upstairs and comes back down and said, Dad, there isn't a category for financial services either. So I decided I'd go in to do a little inspection. Now there are, I counted them, 50 categories for farming. Tomato farmer, asparagus farmer, I mean literally 50 categories for farmers. And banking and financial services were not listed as career opportunities. So I thought that was sort of the low point for me in my banking career, to think, okay, this is the final insult. The government now has officially removed us as an option as a career. So he ended up calling me an executive in his application, and he's gone on and is doing great school. So we employ a lot of entry-level graduates. Don't take banking off your list as a career. I'll give you a quick little sales pitch and hope that if you're considering a career choice, you consider SunTrust. I've had about 7 or 8 careers. I've just had them with one company. And I realize when I talk to a lot of student groups, people look and say, gosh, you've been 31 years at one company, basically what happened to you? But I've had about 7 or 8 careers, just happen to have it at one company. We're not perfect. But my goal is for my company and our industry not to be judged on the criticisms of the past, but by the actions that we take today. And the actions that we take in the future to listen to our clients, listen to our teammates, and make a difference. So that was unabashed propaganda and love for the company that I work for and the industry that I'm in, because I think it's an important part of the fabric of this country and the recovery in the next decade. So with that said, let me turn it over, and I'll be happy to talk about what you guys might want to talk about or take any questions.